Alright, so it looks like the 25 Maverick trimmer is currently about to do an update. So I was about to do a video on how to go through all the settings, but I got in here and it mentioned something about a software update, so we'll go ahead and just see how this goes. I wish there was a way I could just start it, like start update now, instead of going through the countdown. It says please exit and secure the vehicle. We'll go ahead and just sit in here. I mean, how bad could it be? We're currently parked in the shade in Texas. It's morning time, so it's not too bad. It hasn't gotten above 90 yet. Oh, update starting. You guys have been in the channel for a while or watched the channel for a while. You heard me sniffling a lot. That's because recently, well, not recently, probably about a year ago, we rescued Hobbs. You may have seen the orange cat that's been in the background walking around in some of the videos. So we showed up, came home one summer a couple years ago, and there was this orange cat underneath one of my cars, the BMW wagon, near death. Brought him some water and some food and came out with the most pathetic meow. I mean, he was looking rough. Couldn't say no. So we took him to the vet. $3,000 later. He's our cat. I've always been allergic to cats and, you know, allergy medications and doing everything every day. But after about a year or so, it started to catch up with me. And I've just been first time dealing with asthma. And everything else is just all from the allergies. So finally doing some allergy testing, seeing what kind of solutions we can come up with, because getting rid of Hobbs wasn't one of them. So I went to the allergy test and confirmed I'm allergic cat dander. So we're going to revisit them this week, I believe, to talk about some of the shots. Because as of a few months ago, it seems that somebody dumped another kitten in the shopping center behind us. So directly behind us, there's the alley that goes, behind the shopping center. Used to be a grocery store and stuff like that. Now it's turned into a gym, 24-hour gym as well. So that's kind of shitty to the neighborhood. But anyways, that's another story. There's also a Petco. So we think someone tried to take the cat to the Petco or the kitten to the Petco, and they don't accept kittens. It's not like that. So they didn't know what to do with it. So they just kind of dumped it in the alley behind the shopping center, and somehow he ended up in our yard. Because we're in the suburbs, there's not a lot of strays, and if there are, you know them. You've seen them around. This was a new kitten. So went ahead and took him in, got him checked out. We were just going to foster him for a little bit. But he ended up saving us. We were actually going to be in the Kerrville on July 4th weekend. But we decided it was going to be tough camping with the new kitten. He hasn't been through it before, and he was still new, and he wasn't going to keep up with us and follow us. So, you know what? The weather doesn't look good. We got this new kitten. Let's just stay home and not camp this weekend. And then we woke up the next morning, and it was just complete destruction and devastation. It was terrible. All the lives lost. But since he ended up saving us, we decided, you know what, we'll just keep him. So now I'm dealing with two kittens, and I'm allergic to cats. So that's where all the sniffling and sneezing and all that stuff you've been hearing is coming from. Well, it looks like the software is updating. says do not disconnect the battery. I can hear some clicking and some stuff happening inside. So modules are updating. Stuff's rebooting and restarting. I hear relays and whatnot. It's only been a few minutes. What? 2-3 minutes? Something like that. I just noticed the dealership put one of those oil change service reminder stickers. And it says every 3,000 miles. So even the dealer is recommending every 3,000 miles, even though the Ford app and manual says you can do oil changes every 10,000 miles. Don't do that. Don't wait 10,000 miles. We're doing it every 5,000 miles, full synthetic. I think that's a good happy medium. You can do 3,000 miles. That's what I was doing previously before all my other cars. Looks like the whole system's rebooting. I wonder if that's it. I wonder if that's complete. You'll notice the screen's terrible, dirty, right? But I also have a screen protector on. I got it off of Amazon. If you've had a touch phone long enough, like I've had, like I didn't get every new iPhone or Android phone every year when a new one came out. I just kept it until it just wasn't good anymore. But I have rubbed on the screen where you like swipe to unlock or you do your pattern. I've rubbed it to where you've noticed that it's not even when you clean the screen, it's not as smooth. It's almost like you've rubbed some of the coating off or something like that. So with these touch screens, I don't know how long we plan on keeping them, but I went ahead and put a screen protector on there just so the smudges, if you rub it raw or you rub it off or something like that, there's still the original screen behind it. But it does make it constantly look terrible. But I guess when you're driving and the screen is on, it's not really noticeable. Alright, so it's been a little bit. I haven't heard any more noises, clicking or anything like that. I think it's safe to start now. So, foot on the brake. Alright, truck started up. Everything's good. Alright, so let's go through the settings now that we know everything's done. So I'm just going to start at the home page. That's going to be this guy. And so for now, you'll see this is... Okay, that was terrible. Sorry. Let's see, what came in as details? Onboard diagnostics. Everything looks good. This improves onboard diagnostics to help your engine perform to specs. Alright. Anyway. So this is your home page. You'll notice that your AC controls are up here as well. It's your seat heater. This is the temperature. So currently, you have dual zone temperature, both as well. So as long as the passenger doesn't change temperature up or down, you'll stay to where it's dual zone, and one side will control the other side as well. And then here is going to be your steering wheel controls for heat on or off. Fan controls. Right now I have it on auto, but you can just touch to go up or down, and then touch off to turn off the AC. But it's Texas, so we're just going to leave it on auto. Here is where you change the zones, and then you can also turn off. You can turn on dual control to where both passenger and driver have separate controls. Max defrost for the windshield, defrost for the back windshield, and this is just an indication that the AC is on, and this is the passenger side controls for temperature and the passenger controls for the seat heater. We'll get into all the settings, apps, and all that later. I just wanted to immediately get control of the AC. And then a little bit down, you will see the controls. These are going to be the manual controls for the radio. You have your volume. This is station and track up, and this is station and track down. This button here lets you pull up the cameras. So say you're backing in or pulling into a parking spot, you can just hit that camera button and it'll pull up 360 view and the front view if you're pulling into a parking spot. That's very handy. And then right next to that is your emergency flashers. There's also another, this is going to be a hard button for your max defrost. If you get in, you need defrost right away, just hit this instead of waiting for the AC controls to pop up. And this button here is brake control. So if you turn this on, what this allows you to do is when you get to a red light and you stop and you come to a complete stop with the brake, what you can now do is lift your foot off the brake, and the truck will stay stationary, and you can rest your legs. You don't have to sit there and hold down the brake. The car won't move forward until you hit the accelerator and get on the gas. So it comes in handy, and like if you're in traffic, start stop, a lot of start stopping, you can just stop, get your foot off the brake, let it rest, and then when you're ready to go again, get back on the gas. That's when you turn it on. If you turn it off, and how we currently have it, your car is going to act like it does normally. You'll come to a stop. If you get off the brake, car is going to creep forward. If you don't want that, turn that on. And that takes care of these controls. You have your indication for your passenger airbag and airbag on the driver's side. And then right below that, you have the controls for start stop. If your car came equipped with it, I know not all Mavericks come equipped with push start. I think the XL, maybe the XLT has where you use the key on the steering column. But if you came with push start stop, it'll be right there. This is, cigarette lighter. If you need the auxiliary power, we know what that is. It's been in cars for generations. This is your control for the sliding rear window. Push down to open the window and pull towards you to close the window. And then you have two plugs right there, one USB-A and one USB-C. Currently, car charger, and then this is running the dash cam. And then below that, we have a wireless car charger. You can put if your phone has wireless charging, you can put it there and it'll take care of charging. A couple of cubbies, spaces to put things. And you have your cup holders, and then here is your gear shift select knob. It's a dial. It kind of just rotates constantly. And right now I don't have my foot on the brake, so you can't rotate. But this is where you would rotate. Put my foot down, reverse, neutral, and drive. So you'll notice once you put it in reverse, your cameras will automatically come up, the reverse cameras, so you can see where you're backing up. And then once you're back in drive, they'll turn off. You have your electric parking brake. Pull up to engage your parking brake, and then push down to disengage your parking brake. And then below there, we have traction control. Press once to turn it off. Press again to turn it on. If you hold it down long enough, you will then enable advanced traction control off. And I think that's just a more aggressive advanced control off. This is for if you're out off-roading, trail riding, stuff like that, you'll use it in those circumstances. Other than that, I don't think there are going to be many circumstances where you will have traction control off. Press it again, and traction control is back on. Okay. Then you have your all-wheel drive button. This is good for, again, if you're off-roading, you're in low gear, and maybe you're at the sand dunes, but this is all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. So, primarily the truck is going to drive front-wheel drive, just to keep it efficient and not four-wheel drive. And then you get off-road, it's raining and slick out, you're dealing with snow, you can hit that and that will turn on your four-wheel drive. You can see an indication for that on your dash. And beyond the four-wheel drive, you also have a electric rear locker. This is also going to come in handy off-roading, trail riding, stuff like that. You would probably start with your rear locker, and if you got to the point where you were needing more traction, then you would engage your four-wheel drive. And then here is probably what you're going to use the most often. This is to turn off auto start stop. This pretty much, I start the truck, I get in, start the truck, hit this next to turn off auto start stop. You don't want auto start stop on because you want the truck to get up to temperature so that it will get hot enough to evaporate any of the moisture that's in the system. That way you reduce moisture in your engine, fuel system, oil system, all of that overall. It's, in my opinion, it's better. This is what most people will tell you. And then this is an immediate button to get into tremor mode or an off-road all-wheel drive. It just turns everything on at once. Or no, actually, I'm sorry. I got this wrong. This is for trail control. So when you turn this on when you're off-roading or you're going downhill or uphill, and you just want a set one constant speed to do this. Usually it's probably anywhere from 3 to 6 miles an hour. You would just turn that on, and then it'll be one pedal control, right? And then you select your speed with this button here. But we're not currently moving, so it's not gonna allow me to set a speed. But you get the idea. So that pretty much covers this center console. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments, and I can cover them. So that's here. That covers this center console. Now to the steering wheel, or we can also cover the doors. So you have all your windows. All right, windows up, down. This is to control you. You have buttons to control So left mirror, right mirror, and then this button here at the top turns off the ability to roll up and down the windows. Maybe if you're in a car wash, driving through a car wash and you have kids, you turn this on, keep them from rolling down the windows. Door locks, and then there's seat controls. If you have electronic seat controls, they're on the side. There's no memory seat function, so it's just each person adjusts the seat once they get in. Alright, back to the steering wheel controls. So this sets the distance when you have active cruise control on. This will allow you to set the distance between 4 cars, 3 cars, 2 cars, and 1 cars. So this allows you to control how closely you're following the car in front of you. This button controls the lane keep assist. So if this is enabled, the truck will keep you inside the lanes. I usually keep this off. It can feel a bit pulsating, like it's constantly trying to keep you left and right, so that it's constantly pulling left or right. So I usually have that off and don't have that on. This allows you to, say you're in cruise control, you hit the brakes, it's going to pause cruise control for a while. You press down on this to resume cruise control, and then you can control the speed of the cruise control by going up or down. We're not moving now, so I can't set the speed to show you what the speed looks like, but you get in the car and play with it and you'll see. And this turns on adaptive cruise control. So you're cruising on the freeway, hit this, and you'll be set at anywhere from 60, 70, I don't know what speed you're at, and then you can control manually up or down if you want to speed up or slow down. This will cancel it, cruise control. And then down here you have your volume for the radio, up or down, and then your mute button for the radio. It's pretty self-explanatory. Well, I mean, these definitely, the cruise control section can be unfamiliar if you haven't seen it before. And then over here on the right side, we have the back button, and this is to go through the menus in the console. We'll go through those and set the console settings in a second. This is the menu button to pull up the different menus that are in the dash or the console. This changes your drive modes. So from here you can go, let's see, all the way to your left is your slippery if it's raining. Alright. And then the next one over is eco mode, which can come in handy if you're just cruising around. Your normal mode, and you'll notice that once you go through these different modes, the colors and the themes of the truck will change. So the volume bars and stuff like that will also change colors. And you have sport mode. Sport, let's see, you have tow haul. So this would be if you're, pulling a trailer behind. You'll know if you have the 4K tow package if you have a brake controller over here underneath the light controls. So there'd be a brake controller here, but this is the Tremor, so it doesn't have the 4K towing package. It has a softer suspension, so it's not made to tow for. And then you have your off-road mode. So this is for ruts, mud and ruts, stuff like that. It'll also change, you'll see, it changed the theme of the console, automatically put it in 4-wheel drive. I don't think it locked the rear lockers yet. And then you can see it pulled up an off-road menu to give you tilt, angles, degrees, and whatnot. And it did turn off traction control, turned on 4-wheel drive. Let's see, if you hit this, it turns on the locker. Oh, I'm assuming if you're in 4-wheel drive that it's already has the rear lockers on. But So normal, it's either going to be normal or eco mode, depending on what you use most. And then the other controls on the steering wheel are push to speak. So if you have your phone hooked up and it has Siri or whatever built in, you can hold this down and it'll pull up that button. And then your previous track and down station, next track, up stations, you can, this is also to answer a call, and this is to hang up a call. And then of course you have some paddles, shift paddles for when you're in manual mode. Once you're in drive and say you're in sport or whatever, off-roading, and you want to manually control what gears you're in, you can press down on the manual. This will enable for manual shifting, and that's when you'll use the paddles. They'll pull towards you to go on the right side to go up. You'll see a plus sign, and on the left side to go down. And then you have your normal controls for the lights. You pull towards you for high beam, right? And then left and right. And then here are the controls for the windshield wipers. Pretty standard as far as those go. And over here we have the light controls. I don't mess around with this too much. We pretty much just have automatic lighting on most of the time, or all the time. This is if you need to dim or brighten the cluster or dash. And then this is the button for the rear lights in the bed of the cab. And pretty much automatic lights. When it's dark, the lights come on. When it's bright out, the lights go off. It works well enough. I'm glad this is a new feature in modern vehicles now. Alright, so that pretty much covers most of the controls. I think that covers, yeah, most of the buttons and controls that are in the vehicle. And then we can go over how to set up your console or your dash. So you'll use the menu button on the steering wheel. I'm going to start at the bottom in the settings. So here you can change from what you saw earlier with the round speedometer gauge or the digital one. It just has the number vehicle in the middle. I like the dials, so that was one of the first things that we changed. So go down to a round speedo gauge. It's just whatever you like. And then screen content, what you want to have on there. We don't really deal with kilometers here. Maybe if I traveled north or south where they are, then I would turn on the second speedometer for the kilometers. Turn-by-turn indications would be if you were using the navigation that's built into the truck, or if you're using for CarPlay. For Apple phones, you have to use the Apple Maps function to show turn-by-turn on the dash in the console. You'll still see it on the main display over here. You'll still see navigation and everything if you're using it. But if you want to see turn-by-turn on here, then you turn this on, and you can use Apple Maps on iPhones, and on Android phones you can use Waze and Google Maps, and it'll show turn-by-turn on here. So for the most part, because of my job, I have both phones. I usually will sync up Android phones to these so that I can use Google Maps and Waze Maps. I don't know of many people that use the Apple Maps. So that's going to be your settings. You can go through there and do those really quick, what you like. This navigation window would be if you're using the Ford navigation that's built into the vehicle. I don't use it at all. I use Google Maps, Waze, a combination of those two. I don't use Apple Maps. So I don't really use this menu, the function. Phone would be, once you have a phone hooked up, you can look at your calls, incoming calls, whatnot. I don't use this much myself. Audio shows you controls for your radio. I use mostly my phone, so you'll be able to control there. That's so that you can control it. This doesn't display it on the dash or on this in this console. Here in vehicle information, you can see the current oil life. This is also where you reset. So if you do your own oil changes, after you do an oil change, you go to this menu, hold down the OK button, and it'll reset the oil. It doesn't give you an oil gauge as far as like low or high. It just tells you the life of the oil. And tire pressure, self-explanatory. I think because we're stationary, it's not showing it. Let's see if I go to drive. Not sure what's up with that. But you can also check in the app, your Ford Pass app as well, to see tire pressure. This normally works, I'm not sure. Maybe it needs to be reset or it needs to update after the software update. Status information. This gives you, there's not much here. Seatbelt status, who's wearing a seatbelt, who's not. I don't see any real value in that. And then off-road status. This will automatically come up if you're in off-road mode. I don't see many circumstances where you need this. Maybe if you live in an area where there's a lot of hills and whatnot, maybe. But this will automatically come up when you're in off-road. Don't worry about this too much. Okay, towing. When you're in towing, this will all pop up. Towing status. Tow mode. I haven't towed too much. I need to go get the jet ski, so maybe that would be an opportunity to do some testing. So I don't have a trailer detected, but this would be where you would go to test the trailer lights. Trip and economy, you can see what the current fuel economy is and reset it here. So this is a mix of highway and city driving that my wife does. We've had the vehicle new since the beginning of the year. I signed the paperwork for it New Year's Eve. And so far we've already done 13,000 miles. I expect it to hit probably 20,000 miles before the end of the year. Wife does a lot of driving. And I think this is the total, or has this already been reset? No, this has already been reset once as well. But you could keep this gauge up. This would be a good indication of where you're at currently in fuel economy while you're driving. If we were driving around town, the gauge would be fluctuating as you're on the gas. It would drop down and go up and down and whatnot. So you can see what you're doing for average currently. And then this is what I use most, my view. So go ahead and these are what I have configured in my view. So here you would just turn on what you want to show out of all of the different menus, right? So every time you get in the vehicle, you can just go to my view, pick one that you want to see. I usually just go to now playing, and then you can scroll through what you have saved in my view. So this would be like your most used things that you're looking at in the dash, and just configuring them there. And that's how you set that up. You have any questions on that, on where to configure that? Definitely drop a comment. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And then now we get to the main thing. All right. This can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot to go through here, but we'll start down here at the bottom. Apps. This is the easy one. So if you whatever apps that you had configured, you could see them here. Pull up the device. But what you will see is I have this YouTube button. So I'm parked in the parking lot and the wife's in there grabbing some groceries or doing something quick. You can just pull up YouTube, and on this big giant screen that they have in here, it's not so bad. It's pretty good. I like it. I haven't used it too much, but I could see how this could definitely be handy. In my Ranger Raptor, the screen is vertical, so it's not as pleasant to watch as it is in here. I love this huge screen that comes in the new 25 Mavericks. So that's that. Not too much in there in the apps. That pretty much covers apps. Alright, so ignore that. Pretty much aren't going to use that menu, I guess, much unless you're checking out YouTube. Okay, so I didn't find any additional apps. We'll go to features. Features, this is where your owner's manual is. I don't know if it came with a paper manual, but this comes in handy. You can always go here wherever you're at, and you can find all the details for the owners, for your, anything you need is for the vehicle. It's a digital owner manual built in. Something you like or you don't like about the truck, you can record feedback and just let them know, hey, I love my Maverick, but I wish you would have done this different or that different. You can do that here. Towing, you can do all the checklists, turn things on. Here it will save all of your different trailers if you have different profiles that you want. Some are heavier than others, so you can change that there. I don't use it too much. Driver's assistances. This is where you do all your driver's assistance. Adaptive cruise control. So you can either have normal cruise control where you set it and forget it. You set a speed, it'll just go to it. This one, we like to use adaptive cruise control, so you get close to somebody, based on how close you are to the next person, it'll slow down and just keep based on distance that you set, whether you're 1 car or 4 cars distance behind the next person. Whether or not whenever you turn on cruise control, if you want to have lane centering on. Let me actually turn down the AC a bit. It's starting to get a little chilly in here. And then predictive speed assist. I'm not sure what this one is actually. And the good thing about it is you can hit this information button on the side and it'll tell you. Predict oncoming road curves, turns, or changes in speed limit to adjust your vehicle speed accordingly. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll turn that on. Predictive speed assist and tolerances. So once you turn that on, it unlocked another menu. I don't know, so let's hit the info and see what that says. Allows you to set a maximum speed up to 20 over or under the posted speed limit. Interesting. So let's set the speed limit to go 10 under, 10 over the posted speed limit. So say, it's like if you're in Houston, 59 posted speed limit is 60 miles an hour. If you do 60 miles an hour, you're going to get cussed out. Everybody's doing 70 at minimum, and most of us, including myself, are doing 75 and up. So I think this is a new feature that possibly got added in a recent update. So we'll leave that on and see what kind of feedback we get from the wife. So the next one down is speed limit assist. So this, you'll see while you're driving around on the dash, it'll have a little box. All right, you can see it here. Right here, it shows the speed limit. So depending on where you're at, it'll post a speed limit sign. So like you're driving down the freeway, the speed limit is 65, it'll show 65 here. So I guess here it will tell me a warning like, hey, you're going over the speed limit. Yeah, it alerts you when you go over. We're always going over the speed limit, so I'm going to leave that off. Lane keeping system. Do you want lane keep assistance on? My wife does a lot of driving, so to help her out, we leave it on for her. I usually keep it off. So here you'll see that you'll get an alert if you're drifting out, and it'll help bring you back in. And then you can adjust the intensity of the alert and how hard it's fighting you to get you back into the lane, if you understand. Okay, so that's lane keep assist. Pre-collision assist. This is definitely a must. Just automatically brake if it thinks you're about to get into a collision. Have that on them. Automatic emergency braking, so it's automatically going to brake. And evasive steering assist, so it'll stop and steer out of danger to help you. And the alert sensitivity, we currently have it at normal. I think this is a must, so we're going to leave that on. Rear view camera delay. So this is if you're in reverse and then you're done backing up and you go back to drive, it'll keep you on that rear view camera just a little bit longer instead of instantly, once you go from reverse to drive, instantly turning off. Just so you can see if there's anything back there before pulling away. We leave that on, that helps. And then blind spot information. So if there's anybody in your blind spot when you're changing lanes, that's an obvious leave on. Parking aid assist, front and rear. So it lets you know if you're getting close to backing into or pulling in too close to something. It's an obvious on. And then driver alert. So this is to let you know, say you have all of the cruise controls on. You have cruise control based on speed and distance, and it's keeping you in the lane. This driver alert will let you know, like, hey, you need to keep your eyes on the road. You need to keep your hands on the steering wheel. So just in case, like, if you fall asleep at the wheel. So you would turn this on to, like, kind of annoy you. Hey, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Keep your eyes on the road. We have this off because we live in a society nowadays where everybody's got smartphones. You're constantly distracted looking at this and that. So to reduce the amount of nuisance, we've turned that off. Notifies you if the vehicle detects you are inattentive. Okay, so those are all the driver assistance options. So I think that covers this menu as far as features. Those are all the features. Now we're going to go through the settings. Now the settings, you're probably going to start with syncing your phone to your vehicle. So you start with phone list, add a phone, and you'll go through the steps as far as
search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
So find it in your menu of your Bluetooth menu of your vehicle, sync. It'll pull up some numbers to make sure that you're syncing to the right device, confirm, and you have that connected. For the clock, you can enable 24 hours and auto update, and you can also manually adjust your clock. For the most part, I leave this alone and on 24-hour time, because both the wife and I are in an industry where we deal with a lot of 24 hours. So usually I deal with UTC. So we just leave 24 hours on, and then the clock will set itself automatically because the vehicle has a mobile connectivity. So if you pull up the app, you can locate where your vehicle is at all times, and that is because the vehicle is constantly connected. Sync navigation. This is if you're using the navigation that's built into the vehicle, then you'll go through these settings. Like I said, we don't use this. We use everything through the CarPlay and Android Auto. General, you can change your language, whichever language you're going to use. Depending on region, you change your temperature unit from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Here, measurement unit, you would also change from kilometers to liters, miles per gallon. Here, tire pressure unit, either PSI, bar, whichever you're using. You can also turn off the touchscreen beep. I turn that off. I don't need it beeping every time I touch the screen. That's immensely annoying. About Sync will tell you about the firmware, current version, stuff like that. Software licenses. There's not much to it. And then to reset all of your settings. Probably won't use that unless you bought the vehicle from somebody else and you want to start from scratch. Sound, if we had music playing or audio playing, then you would adjust. Here, we'll just turn audio on just so that there's something on. Alright, so sync navigation, here's sound. So sound, you can adjust your bass, treble, mid bass, all here. Balance and fade, you can move, your kids are sleeping in the back, you can move the audio to the front speakers. Speed compensated volume, so there's road noise. And as you drive faster, there will be more road noise. So this is where you would be able to adjust to the radio volume playing louder as you drive. And this, you could adjust how much the volume adjusts, low, medium, or high. Currently we have it in medium. That's just a general area. And then the next one is stereo mode. You can also do stereo and surround. I think this surround can be good for some. It has a center channel speaker built into the B&O if you got the B&O audio. So it would light up the front channel, give you a surround effect. I prefer just stereo left and right. We're probably going to overhaul the audio system in here anyways. So that would include a DSP to convert the B&O audio out to a flat signal, and then we'll replace everything. That'll be at a later date. Okay, so that covers sound. Now we're going to go to display. So here you can do the calm screen, and that basically just makes it blank and just a very generic screen. If you just don't want too much going on, this is good for like road trips. You want to be distracted by too much. You adjust the brightness. You just have it in the middle. I think it's good where it's at. And then auto mode. This sets you day or night. So depending if the car thinks it's dark out and the headlights are on, this will go into a dark screen. And if it thinks there's plenty of light out and the headlights are off, then this will go into a dark screen. I currently have it set to auto, but you can hard set it either dark or light, day or night. This display. Next, we're going to go to connectivity. And connectivity, this is going to be, do you want the vehicle connected for like, software updates, lets you know where the vehicle is, Ford Pass account. For us, we want to have it on. You can do remote start from the app and stuff like that. And here, this is where typically I would turn most of this off. I think most of this has been turned back on because of the software update. So I want to share vehicle data because I want to know the tire pressure and I want to know what the oil life is from the app. I want to know where the location is. Share driving data. I don't know if I want to share all of this. So you can pick and choose what you want. Speed recognition, Ford Assistant. Do you want to have navigation? Do you want to have Sirius XM? We're not paying for Sirius XM, so I could probably just turn that off. Oh, so this doesn't. Alright, let's just leave it. But a lot of these you can turn off if you don't want Ford in too much of your information. Bluetooth, you want to have Bluetooth on. You can change what the name of your vehicle looks like. So here, because my wife's vehicle, I'm going to name it B-Rex. So you can see how to do that here. Oh, that's underscore. I'm looking for dash. Here's dash. Whoops. There. So now when you hook up Bluetooth, you'll see that you're connected to B-Rex. Wireless app projection. This is if you're connecting to your phone. You don't use as much. And if you have cellular connectivity, if you paid monthly to have cellular connectivity to your vehicle, then you can turn on the Wi-Fi and everybody can connect to the vehicle's Wi-Fi. So if you have kids, this can be a feature. We don't. Our phones have hotspot, so in theory you could just turn on your phone's hotspot and everybody could connect to it. But that's also another feature. Ford Assistant. This is kind of like Hey Google or Siri, but this is for the Ford vehicle. So listen, wake word would be hey, okay, Ford, and stuff like that, and it'll just start. See, it heard me. So you can tell it. You can ask it all kinds of stuff. You can tell it navigation. It comes in handy. You can change the preferred word, so you can change it to the options. I'm not going to go through them. I don't want to set it off again. And then advanced mode. So you can say more complex, and you can say earlier. Phone confirmation once you're hooked up. It's like, hey, is this the person you want to call? Make sure before calling. And then this lets you know what things you can say. So there's always going to be an information button if you're ever confused what feature does or anything like that. Vehicle hotspot, it's basically connecting to the vehicle's 5G cellular connection, which I don't see how it's different than the Wi-Fi, but whatever. So now you know if you're out and about, you can turn on the vehicle hotspot and connect to it. So I think it's passing your device. So I think if you use Wi-Fi, other things are still on. If you do the hotspot, then everything else gets kicked off. It's using the hotspot. Probably something we might use more. I don't use Amazon Alexa, so you can leave that off. Mobile apps, Android via USB. Okay, so you can just have it sync up through USB. Probably not something I'm going to use. A lot of these things, or a lot of features, others may use. I don't. 911 assist. Okay, I don't have my phone connected, but it lets you. It knows the. You can use 911 through a paired device. And then software updates. I have it on automatic update. There's no specific time to do it. Just whenever it's available, go ahead and do it at night. This you may use if you're going out to eat. You can set a pin and turn on valet mode, so it doesn't allow the valet driver to change your drive modes, so like sport or something like that, or play with your radio and change any of the stations. And then once you get back in it, you put in your 4-digit code that you've set at the beginning of valet mode, and then now you have full controls. It unlocks it once you put in your 4-digit code and you're good to go. So hot again. So I think that pretty much covers all of your options. If you want to do the radio, you can press there. Change your radio stations. Sources here. So AM, FM, Bluetooth. We're not using Sirius XM. For the most part, it's fairly intuitive. This is the built-in navigation from Ford if you want to use it. I just use Android Auto and Google Maps. But yeah, this is what it looks like when you generally get in. If there are any questions, you have any comments or anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out and drop a like or a question in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer it as soon as possible. Alright, thank you. Have a great weekend.